What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So as expected, we had a ton of information come out right at the beginning of this week for the Xbox Series X as press outlets and YouTubers managed to go hands-on with the system. And while they mostly looked at current gen games and through backwards compatibility, there were still a lot of upgrades and improvements that they were able to show off, and it's got me pretty excited for this system. We're gonna go over that today, all of the things that were mentioned there. Also, the PlayStation 5 DualSense controller had several images pop up online, giving us our best look outside of the controller and even inside the controller with this random teardown that took place online. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if brand new here, hit that red subscribe button down below. And we're gonna start today with a couple of events you can look forward to this week, one of which starts in about an hour from when this video goes up. You can see this tweet here. This is from Pokemon on Twitter saying, "Get ready, trainers. We've got updates on Pokemon Sword and Shield." That's the expansion. September 29th, 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern time. And this should be an update on the rest of that expansion pass, because keep in mind, we had the first part come out that was earlier this year, and they said we will have another piece of this expansion coming later on. We had assumed in the holiday, right around there, to help boost sales of Pokemon Sword and Shield with this expansion, marketing, all that. It makes a lot of sense for them to try to do that, and then maybe next year tackle another Let's Go game, and then following up from that, then they would come out with the next generation Pokemon game, or who knows, maybe they try to do a remake of an older one again. We'll see there, but look forward to that. Like I said, an hour after this video goes up, I wouldn't expect much more other than just an update on the new expansion, when it's coming out, and of course, what's in it. Now, the other event to look forward to is the new zombie mode in Call of Duty that's, of course, coming up here, and you can see this tweet here saying, "Zombies are back, Black Ops Cold War," and that'll be 10 a.m. Pacific on September 30th. And I used to play a lot of Call of Duty Zombies. I believe it was in Black Ops 2. It was a lot of fun there with friends, but I kind of fell out of it after that. I will be checking this one out just to see if it's anything that'll pull me in, but those old school zombie games on like the different Call of Duty were a lot of fun, so I'll give it a chance, but look forward to that. I assume that'll just be a stream where they kind of go over everything that's going to be in there, or who knows, maybe it's just a regular video they just put out on YouTube teasing it and showing off a couple of new things. But either way, couple of events to look forward to, like I said, one of which starts in an hour. Also, we know that Yakuza Like a Dragon is launching alongside of the Xbox Series X, appears to be a timed exclusive for next-gen Xbox, right, with the Series X and the Series S, but it will be out on the other platforms, PS4, PC, all of that, same day. But the PlayStation 5 version, you have to wait a little longer. We did get the release date, however, here you can see on Twitter, Rise Like a Dragon on PlayStation 5 on March 2nd, 2021, and get a first look at in-engine footage of Yakuza Like a Dragon on PS5 right now. Digital owners of Yakuza Like a Dragon on PS4 can upgrade to PS5 for free at PlayStation Store immediately on the game's PS5 release. Now, they did clarify, because people were asking questions about save data. They say physical owners of Yakuza Like a Dragon on PS4 can also use the original disc to upgrade to the PS5 version when it releases on March 2nd. Save data will not be transferable between the PS4 and PS5 versions of the game, and that's kind of a bummer, though, if you think about that, because maybe you played a good bit of the game on the PS4, even beat it, and you want to do more in the game when the PS5 version comes out, of course, and you're having the PS4. I don't really know what the deal is with that, because they take their save games and you'd be able to put them in the cloud, and you think, okay, well, I can then just retrieve it on the PS5. That's very strange. Sony still has a lot to talk about with their UI and their overall, any of the system settings and all this that they have. I assume they're gonna be talking about this in like a week or two, because we're getting pretty close to the system coming out and we don't even know what like the UI itself looks like. So here's hoping they have something planned pretty soon. Oh, and do you remember how we keep talking about that Need for Speed Hot Pursuit remaster from EA? We've talked about it a couple of times over the last year or so. Well, it looks like it has been rated in on the Korean ratings boards, and that happened last week. I assume this game is just going to be randomly announced with a release date on Twitter. It's apparently coming to all platforms from what we've seen, including the Switch, because we've seen retail listings and we've also heard rumors about it going everywhere. And hey, it's Hot Pursuit. It was a fun game. It's strange to think that we're to the point now where those could get remasters, because we're getting close to when we're going to talk about 360 as retro, right? And it's weird to think that way, but again, I guess just a tweet at some point. Hey, it'd be really funny if EA actually decided, hey, let's put it in one of Nintendo's partner showcases, but that would mean that EA, actually wants to support Nintendo with something other than like FIFA 21. It wasn't great. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with the Xbox Series X. A lot of hands-on, a lot of impressions, previews, video, all kinds of stuff hit the internet yesterday morning, and it was just a whirlwind of Xbox news and different things about how the system is improving over that Xbox One S and the Xbox One X. There was one downer, and that is that we didn't really hear about any next-gen games. This preview appears to have been all about really the backwards compatibility. Playing games better that you're already playing now, right? Or just that like frame rates are better, load times are better, all of this. But we do have comparisons, and you know what? They're pretty good. Like overall, the Xbox Series X, as we would expect, just absolutely destroys the Xbox One X and obviously the One S, but we do have comparisons for things like load times and all of this. So let's go over here because The Verge did put together a little chart and you can see some of the comparisons here. Now, some of them are more impressive than others, as you would expect, like Call of Duty Warzone, 16 seconds versus 21 seconds. But then you get down to things like Sea of Thieves, 20 seconds on the Series X for loading in, versus a minute 21 on the Xbox One X, or for example, Warframe, 25 seconds versus a minute 31. From what I can tell, most people who were previewing this system mentioned that it was somewhere between 50 and 70% faster depending on the game. And you have to remember, these games are not designed with an SSD in mind, and they're not even designed with the Series X in mind. This is all running through full backwards compatibility mode. Now, you can see real quick, Digital Foundry put this tweet out here after confirming with Microsoft how all this was working, saying it's confirmed that while back compat gets 12 teraflops of compute power, this is in compatibility mode. You aren't seeing the architectural improvements of RDNA 2, including its IPC boost. Rather, you're seeing what a 12 teraflop GCN-based console with Zen 2 would have looked like. So keep in mind, the two biggest bottlenecks for the One X is the storage medium with that slow mechanical hard drive that's inside the system, and of course, those Jaguar cores, both of which have been eliminated with the Series X, which means that, of course, frame rate becomes much better, much more stable. And that was one of the best things that I saw during these preview events. Everyone talked about how much smoother some of these games look. Jeff Grubb had mentioned that Sekiro is 60 frames per second now on the Series X. That is really impressive. On the One X, it wasn't great. It was all over the place at times. That, as well as Final Fantasy 15, which are certainly two that I would have loaded up right away, because I remember those two games on the Xbox One X really struggled. Like, they were all over the place. Frame timing was bad, and it was something you could notice just by looking and playing it. You didn't even need the frame rate chart. It was just, especially Sekiro, where it's very timing based, it's basically a rhythm game. You would feel kind of when it would start chugging and all of this. So wow, 60 frames right across the board there is really cool. I noticed there were a few dips here and there, but for something that is just running in brute force back compat mode, that's still really cool to see that games that aren't necessarily thought of for the Series X are performing that well. Quick Resume also seems to be in full effect here, where you are storing games and transferring between them rapidly. Like 5 or 6 games or something are loaded up, and you can jump between them with no issue. From what I could tell though, anything that was like live service based, you might be disconnected from your server and then kicked back to the title screen anyway, so there's really no point in doing those. But any like the single player games or games that can be played offline, people are jumping between these things in seconds. It's very impressive. I guess it also is, if you are into like jumping between games that fast, I will typically sit down and play a game and it'll just be like the one game for a couple of hours or something at night. So I don't know how much I'll be using the Quick Resume, jumping between games all over the place, but it is a super impressive feature to have. Now, there does seem to be one drawback to Quick Resume, however, and that is you need to allot seemingly a significant portion of that SSD, where that will be used to store these games from memory, and then when you want to switch to them, it'll change it out. So it needs a fair amount of space to store these games, and unfortunately that means that when you start your Series X up for the first time, that 1 terabyte is actually 802 gigabytes. That's right, nearly 20% of the overall storage capacity in the Series X is allotted to the OS and system files, and apparently a space for Quick Resume. So that is a pretty big drawback, considering the PlayStation 5 is 825 gigabytes on the box, and unless they have something similar for Quick Resume and they need a ton of, I guess, space for system files, it might actually be closer than you think for the overall system storage inside of these devices. But we do, of course, have the option for that expensive memory card, $220 1 terabyte card that you can get from Microsoft and Seagate. Hopefully, again, competition will spring up and flash memory will fall in price and all that we'll see there. But you do have the option, of course, to transfer to a hard drive if you have files that you want to free up and make more room on your system, or change games around, change them out, all of this, right? You can do that with an enclosure or a USB 3.1 hard drive that's just ready to go through USB. And Jeff Grubb tested several instances of this, and he found the best results if you have an SSD inside of like a 3.1 enclosure. He was able to move games around like Assassin's Creed Origins in 2.5 minutes or so, loading from the hard drive to the system. A little more than that, about 3 to 4 minutes if you're moving from the system to the hard drive. But if you use a mechanical drive, it's easily triple that at times. It seems to be right around 7 to 10 minutes if you're using a mechanical hard drive, but it really comes down to if you already have a hard drive that you can use, you don't mind wiping it and using it for your Series X and offloading games, are you good to just wait 10 minutes to move a game around rather than go out and buy a memory card and leave it plugged in for an extra terabyte of space? At least it's an option, and it's like a one-time thing every time you want to play a game, I guess, and move it around, right? So if you know you're going to be playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey, as an example, for like the next week, you just move it over once, and then when you're done later on that week, you can move it back. Several outlets also really like the controller that came with the system. That's the new Xbox controller that will be shipping with the Series S and the Series X, and from what I could tell, everyone said the system was really quiet. Some were saying it's like the quietest system they've ever used. So far, so good for what Microsoft is showing here in these preview events, giving people a chance to go hands-on at home. Since there was no E3 or anything, it's kind of tough to do that now. Good to see. Now, the real question is going to be, when do we get to see some next-gen games on this device? Do we have to wait until it comes out and we just buy it and go, here's hoping this is good? I'm thinking they're going to let Digital Foundry maybe take a look at some of these games like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, but like as of now, Halo Infinite being pushed to next year, no other big first-party titles to showcase the Xbox Series X, it is kind of tough. But now, I'm really curious to see what the Series S can do. I know we're all about the Series X, how powerful it is, but I'm kind of curious that budget model and see what it can do, especially when compared to something like the One X. But hey, so far so good for Microsoft. Their backwards compatibility, which falls perfectly in line with Game Pass, and probably your library now of Xbox games. Next up, let's talk about the PlayStation 5 DualSense controller, as it had a bit of a random photo shoot that took place, and then a lot of images were just dropped online. Some of these were pretty good because we got a very close look at the controller itself, which included showing off kind of the etchings of all the PlayStation symbols. You can see that, for example, here. And these seem to pop up on Instagram. They were from Evzen. And also alongside of very close-up shots of the USB Type-C port with the Sony logo, the thumbstick grips, the buttons themselves on the front, the back of it. We had a little collage of a teardown of the controller, and unfortunately, from what I could tell, the images are pretty small, to the point where even if you try to kind of blow them up, it's very difficult to see any kind of details or features on things like the board itself, which does appear to be kind of a smaller square. But we can see that the black and white section are separated, which would tell me that they have plans for special edition controllers down the road where they can change out either that black part of it or the overall white aesthetic of the controller itself. So you go with like a red controller or a blue controller. I'm sure all of that is coming down the road. But we did get a nice little look at, of course, those the triggers that will change tension and all of this. Unfortunately, once again, it's not a great look at it, but it does appear to be its own board, and it seems like they have quite a bit going on there. So I am excited to get a hold of one of these DualSense controllers when they do finally release in November. And even if I don't have the system day one because I'm waiting for it to be shipped in, we can surely take a look at that DualSense controller, because those adaptive triggers are one of the most fascinating things that I've heard so far going into a generation with a controller. So I'm really curious to see how they are achieving that inside. But at least we have somewhat of a look inside of the DualSense controller. Even like the little rumble motors down there are very difficult to see because they're kind of enclosed. It looks like they have some foam around them and all this. So we'll get a better look when I get a hold of one and we rip it apart. And in our last bit of news, let's go back over to the UK sales charts. We had talked about this before when Mario 3D All-Stars launched. Big launch for the game, of course. In Japan, it was very large as well, but it actually ended up being bigger than Avengers in the UK. In fact, you can see the September charts here that show Mario 3D All-Stars at the top, and then Marvel's Avengers below that. We have Mafia Definitive Edition, then we have Animal Crossing New Horizons, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Mafia Trilogy, Minecraft Dungeons, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2, Minecraft, and then GTA 5, because it never leaves the charts for whatever reason. Who needs GTA 6 when we're all still buying GTA 5? What is going on out there? Anyway, we do have Mario 3D All-Stars actually beating out the Avengers in September for the UK, and this isn't too surprising because, again, it's a limited release. Everyone's rushing to buy it, and the Avengers game it's a live service technically, so I'm sure there are a lot of people who just bought it digitally. Like, I bet you that digital physical split is heavily favored in the sense of more and more digital copies being sold. And of course, Mario, I'd be curious to see if more people bought it physically. It's getting delisted digitally. Sometimes people take that as, oh, I won't be able to download it anymore, I'm just gonna buy it physically. And it seems like Nintendo just stocked up like crazy. So Mario 3D All-Stars taking over in the UK for September, even over Marvel's Avengers. And I'm very curious to see in the NPD charts, because keep in mind that we had Marvel's Avengers come out earlier in the month, and Mario waited till like midway through. So it was like a week or two out from the Avengers and still managed to top it in the charts. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Rumo saying, I believe Starfield will release on PS5. It will just have a big unskippable Microsoft Xbox Studio Presents, and then also available on Game Pass for Microsoft, Xbox, and Windows screens. So that's a funny point you can make. What if Microsoft just put it there just to advertise? Like they put it on the PlayStation 5 and they're like, oh yeah, you're gonna have to go through like 3 screens that's like best played on Game Pass. Why did you spend $70 on this when you could have played it on Game Pass? Buy an Xbox Series X or S for the best way to play this game. I don't think they'll do that, but I mean, they could, I guess. There's also the idea of any live service games that Bethesda makes going forward would require you to sign into Xbox Live, which would mean that you'd have to sign into Xbox Live on a PlayStation, and Microsoft would then count that as a monthly active user, which is exactly what they are pushing hard for. There is some strategy there, you're right, but I still think they're going to keep it locked to their ecosystem in order to drive more people in. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. Enjoyed this video, guys. Hit the like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about today, whether it's the Xbox Series X, all of those performance metrics, the load times, the frame rates. Are you excited for this system? Because it seems more or less like a drop-in replacement for your One X or your One S right now. Or are you still thinking, I need to see new games and see how they perform? I get you on that one, trust me. Also, what about the PS5 DualSense controller or Mario topping the charts in the UK over Avengers? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.